Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good middle of the night for some of you, and I know some very early hours for some who are joining us today as well. My name is Lisa Lambert, and this is Practical Utopias. Welcome to our second showcase session today and our finale. I can't believe it. We are coming to the end of this journey here together, and we'll get to that a little bit later too, and what that ending might mean. For those of you who are here with us in Zoom, I'd love to know who you're doing today before we dive in. If you want to share over in chat in 1 or 2 words, how do you feel in this moment? And as you start sharing over there, I will soon invite our special guest commentator and Margaret up to the stage as well. Lots of excitement here again today. Tired but inspired. I feel you on that, Daniel. Great, productive, inspired, excited, contemplative, excited, all caps, forward-looking, grateful, feeling elated, sad to see this coming to a close, clear, positive, grateful, awake. Nova, I know it's quite late for you. Thank you for joining us. A little bit sad, me too, Maru. Excited, curious, exhausted, ready for utopias, optimistic, grateful, future forward, stoked. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for joining us today. We've got 4 amazing groups of fellows who are going to be sharing their visions for the future. They're going to be sharing the possibilities they explored with us today. We're going to have EMEGENCE, SYMBIOCENE, CHRYSALIS, and KINTSUGI joining us in just a little bit. But before we do, I want to invite Margaret over to the stage. Let me just spotlight her. Hi,
Hello.
Margaret.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm
good.
very
And
well.
how's
I'm
everybody?
also
Good, I hope.
I'm excited. I'm tired but excited. I want to invite Senator Boyer. And Senator Boyer, if you can just turn your camera on, I can bring you over to the virtual stage. Just give me 1 sec here. There we go. We've got a familiar face here. Senator Boyer, for those who aren't familiar, is just such an incredible person. She started off as a nurse and transitioned into law, and is a member of the Métis Nation of Ontario with her ancestral roots in the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the Red River. Senator Boyer, thank you for coming back today. And I missed a little something the last time you joined us. When you joined us back in our Social Worlds exploration, it was your birthday.
And I got so excited, I forgot.
I did too. So I'd love if our fellows who are here would love to wish you a happy belated.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending your birthday with us last time and coming to join us here again today.
Thank you.
We are going to dive right into it. We've got 4 teams who have put a tremendous amount of effort and work into their explorations and into their presentations. So I'm just going to get ready with the first team here. And we will follow a similar format to last time. So I'll just recap this. We are going to have teams present. They have 10 minutes max. We've got 3 video presentations and then 1 live presentation. So I will hold tight with timekeeping. Following their presentation, we will have Margaret and Senator Boyer provide some comments, and I'll invite some responders up for each team as well to engage in a little bit of Q&A or dialogue back and forth. Again, we're going to have to be tight for time as we move through this. And once we get through the 4 teams, we are going to have a bit of a wrap up and finale celebration together at the end as well. For our fellows who are here on Zoom with us, again, just want to invite you to immerse yourself fully in possibility today. So while the teams are presenting, whether it's video or live, I want to invite you not to use the chat during that time, as it can become a bit distracting with the chat notifications popping up. So there'll be time to use the chat in between, but just during the presentations, if we can leave it to the presentations and just being present within those moments. So just grabbing my screen here, and I've got our first presentation with Team EMEGENCE. Their facilitator was Marianne Bernasconi, and Celine Boussourou is the illustrator behind their work. So EMEGENCE, it is over to you.
Hello, friend. Enjoying the tram ride? For an added treat, let's take a moment to slow down and unwind. Are you sitting comfortably Good, let's begin. Close your eyes and imagine a sunlit forest, birds singing, the river flowing by, shores inviting us on a leisurely walk. Tantalizing smells of purple plump berries to bursting leaves of greenest kales luring us along, all slowly loaded onto waiting boats. Can you hear the city air buzzing with excitement, inviting you to join? A recipes exchange, blackberry jams to samosas, maybe fried rice or grilled aubergines? Like an artist's palette, a sea of colors blending, flowing fabrics, people enticed here and there. We continue along the winding path, past homes built into surrounding forest. Bury your feet into soft forest grass. Feel the warmth of joy spreading, bringing a smile to your lips. When you're ready, take a few deep breaths, then open your eyes. Welcome to Emergence.
My dear friend Margaret, it's been so long since we last spoke or saw each other. I have so much to tell you. But before I get into it, I have some pretty awful news. My beautiful son and his beloved partner didn't make it here. They were lost in the Great Flood 2 years ago, and I've been trying, mostly failing, to parent darling Maddie in their place. But things are good here. Though we've lost so much, all around me, life is coming back. Can you believe that a family of bright blue European rollers, once feared extinct, nest outside my window? We didn't realize it at the time, but the old world was so bleak. Remember the food back then? Bland, standardized, industrialized, and so often wasted. Today, food is diverse, colorful, and dense with nutrition, restoring and regenerating our soils, ecosystems, waters, and communities. Emergence is bustling with life, yet it feels calm. The quiet rumble from the tram, the ringing of bicycle bells, the honking of canal boats. Our segment city is filled with art instead of ads, with wind chime generators down by the canal and light from stained glass solar windows. Here, healthcare and education are realized universal basic rights, as are housing, food, clothing, and the arts. The system before was just so corrupt. Now, we distribute resources based on need, and we determine priority together in council circles. We have a wealth cap, resulting in a massive swing away from the glamorization of endless consumption. Today, wealth means the quality of relationships, experiences, and health. And Margaret, I'm so wealthy. Things changed fast when our guiding metric shifted from growth and short-term profits to the well-being of communities and ecosystems. Also, true cost accounting has made demand plummet for products that harm our health and planet. I'm so grateful that we acted when we did. But why couldn't we have been faster in taking down the ravenous pension funds, bankers, and governments? Why didn't we do something about the jets and the yachts, dismantle the fossil fuel industry, blow up the pipelines? I worry for the world. How bad are things going to get? How limited will supplies be? How large the tides of migrations? Will capitalism raise its ugly head to fight another day? Well, here in Emergence, we strive to be guided by the wisdom of previous generations and to be stewards for future generations. What a long, eventful life I've led. I don't fear what comes next anymore. For me, there's a wonderful mushroom burial in the forest, returning back to the ecosystem. And for Maddie, there is a kind, caring, and connected community to nurture and love her. Remember how she used to play with your little neighbor, Abo? Well, she still talks about Abo all the time and has written a letter, which I've included for you to pass on, if at all possible. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are well in mind, body, and spirit. All my love, your friend, Har.
Dear Abo, I'm finally writing you a proper letter, rather than those snippets on a postcard. Do you remember the floods we used to have? Here, the buildings are amphibious, so rise if the water level does. It's mad. The last time it flooded, people were sitting around the common room, weaving willow baskets and debating about tolerance versus disinterest. and a scientist gave a workshop about Sami indigenous water or something. I can't really remember, to be fair. Sometimes I help my mentor M facilitate a multi-generational group on digital citizenship. And it's so weird because older people look up to me for guidance, as if I know more than them. It makes me want to be on the governance council. It's selected at random for all age groups, and apparently it's really interesting. What else should I tell you? School is really different. Currently, I'm working on a project about the 2022 Iran Revolution and another about coppicing trees, which is cutting parts of trees for wood and letting them regrow. It's fascinating. Do you remember Marouge? Tomorrow we're both starting a part-time apprenticeship about the permaculture section of the food forest with a focus on bees. I can't wait, as I'm really into bees. In the afternoon, I often cycle to meet friends in another segment or head to the clothing village to browse recycled fashion. Sometimes though, I just stay at home and read, and our apartment. It has 2 really cosy bedrooms. I have a loft bed with a den underneath. Then we have a bathroom with a compost toilet and a small living room. And then there's a huge common room downstairs where lots of lower mobility people help take care of each other or the little ones during the mornings. Or you can just read or chat or eat if you don't want to go out to the food centre. Oh, what else? I read a lot. There's a brilliant library, really cool stuff to both commission here and buy from outside. I like to be on my own in nature too. I often go to the Forest Memorial Centre and think about my parents, who I still love and miss so much. Anyway, I really hope you get to read this, and I really hope you are safe and well. I miss you and cannot wait to hear how the world is around you. Much love, Matty.
Emergence was once a dream. The river ran dry, birds of prey flew high. Emergence was once a dream. The lungs of the earth, the forest was cleared. Remember to nourish the earth. Harvest it. Remember to nourish your soul. Harvest it. Flows in my veins. Flows in my veins. The sorrow and pain remains. The loss and fear, it's all welcome here. The sorrow and pain remains. But dawn will come and a brighter day. Remember to honor the dead. Remember to honor the past. Flows in your veins. Flows in your veins. We're creating our future ways. If we build together, our foundations will stand strong. We're creating our future ways. A place where we all can feel we belong. Remember to listen and share. Emergence. Remember to collaborate. Emergence. Flows in our veins. Flows in our veins. Emergence was once a dream. The change we've achieved deemed impossible. Emergence was once a dream. We've imagined an abundance that's here to stay. Remember to rest and breathe. Regeneration. Remember to care for the earth. Regeneration. Remember to laugh and play. Celebration. Remember to dance and sing. Celebration. Flows in our veins. Flows in our veins. Flows in our veins. Flows in our veins.
Whoa.
Big round of applause. And I believe that's Mathilde who performed that original song for Emergence as well. So I'll bring up some Emergence commentators in just a moment, but Margaret, Senator Boyer, I want to leave it to you for some thoughts or responses following that presentation.
Well, that was very beautiful. It's a lovely presentation, and I wonder where, once you've run out of recycled clothing, I wonder where the rest is going to come from. So is there going to be any actual fabric manufacturing, growing fibers, something like that? And of course, we have right here beside me a waste management expert, JP, is also my tech, and we're wondering about waste management in the Utopia, in Emergence.
I will bring the team up in just 1 second and we will ask them to speak to waste management. Senator Boyer, we'd love to hear your thoughts first.
I was just mesmerized with the beauty of the images that were put in front of us, with the colors and the messages that were coming through in the songs, and the messages that weren't evident. You had to listen carefully to hear them, but the beauty was so all-encompassing that it made me want to go there. I'd like to be there, but I just don't know how I can take that step from here to get there. So that's my question. How do I take that step? So thank you very much for that. That must have taken a horrendous amount of energy to put together. Thank you.
Gorgeous. Are there going to be some vertical workers tending to the vertical gardens? There must be. Yeah.
Let's open it up to the team here. So there's two questions, one about the gardens and another getting into clothing and waste. So Emergence, I'll turn it over to you. I also had Gabrielle listed as a responder. I don't see her here, but if I do see her, I will add her to the virtual stage as well. But I will leave it with the team here.
Well, I can start with the gardens. As well as the vertical gardens, we're going to have rooftop gardens and fruit trees and hedges around our housing, but we're surrounded by a forest. So we plan to have 7 layers of food in our forest, and also algae, clams in our river, both cleaning the water and feeding us with high protein, high quality food.
So, and I'd like to add a little bit about waste, or the clothing aspect. Actually, the word that you heard in the song, harvaste, is a made-up word. It's a portmanteau word. It's blended from harvest and waste. So this is the idea of we're harvesting our waste. There's the bad connotation of waste is gone. It is actually a valued resource. And so we're going for circular economy and circular society in that case. That also fits in with the clothing village. Partly it's made of recycled fabrics, but also alternative materials, like they're fabrics made from bark or something. We are in a very forest area there, so there's already a lot of signals for that out in leather made from pineapple, actually, or something like that, which doesn't grow probably in Emergence, but it's an example. Also, we are relying on mushroom materials, and yeah, that's where the clothing will come from.
Great. Are you going to have any open agricultural land? No.
No, the idea is that everything, all of our food is grown in the food forest, and our rooftop gardens and within our housing pods.
And what sort of climate zone do you live in?
Temperate North European with a tendency to flood.
Yes, we saw the tendency to flood. So are you thinking sort of North France, maybe? Northern France, about like there? Southern Denmark? Things have gotten warmer, so you can probably do that in Europe. Yeah.
One of the things is rice will grow in Spain and Italy, but it won't grow in Northern Europe. So it might be nice to get some rice.
So how would that affect the mushroom burial if it's prone to flooding?
Well, the mushroom burial is on slightly higher land.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's honestly, we
idea.
were talking about that.
That's good.
It is indeed not all parts of emergence are subject to floodings, but there's also raised land and slightly hilly land. So that's where the mushroom is
And I
burial
loved,
taking
I
place.
loved the floating houses. I thought that was very inventive. So some people have solved for floods by putting things on stilts, but the houses that lower and rise, that would be brilliant. Senator Boyer.
Well, I thought I was just so impressed with that and the way that it was all put together. But again, I'm wondering what they left behind to get there, and how did you make the jump into that incredible beauty, but you left behind some nasty things. So how did the jump actually happen?
Yeah, maybe I can address that from a finance perspective, because one of the big things that we did was the Global Regeneration Index that replaced the GDP as a measurement for success and wealth. So instead of measuring short-term profits and infinite growth, we measure happiness, well-being, the health of our ecosystem. And that is the driver. I mean, we can't, why the food suck today? Well, it's more profitable to poison the earth than to regenerate it. What if we just flip that switch? So
I think
that was
is anybody actually doing that yet?
Yeah, I mean, New Zealand is doing some interesting stuff around that. Bhutan, surprisingly, there's a lot of interesting projects in the making. I mean, even the founder of GDP, Simon Kuznets, didn't think it was a good idea to measure success by GDP. So, I mean, there's a very good incentive to replace it. Also, true cost accounting to really pay for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, true cost. That's excellent. Love that. So well done, and you've obviously done some in-depth thinking. You didn't tell us what you're going to do with people who don't agree with you, but how could anybody disagree?
Everyone is free. Everyone is free in emergence.
Thank you so much,
Well
Team
done.
Emergence. A big round of applause
Yes.
once again, and a big thanks to Marianne Bernasconi, your facilitator, and Salim Busuru, who's done the illustrations you see in the backgrounds here. And I know you've augmented those with some incredible AI illustrations as well in your video, which were just phenomenal to immerse us into your possible future. And we are on to our next group already. And next we are going over to venture to the SYMBIOCENE, which I believe is in North America. This is a team facilitated by Shannon Weber, and the artist is Elfsar behind this. I'm just going to get their video queued up. And again, I'll just invite everyone, if we can hold on the chat until after the video is done playing, and they'll be able to connect afterwards. So SYMBIOCENE, I am putting it over to you.
Welcome to SYMBIOCENE. Nestled within one of North America's mixed-use forests beside the Esperus River, our city is home to 120,000 humans and myriad other species. We celebrate the values that our city's name reflects: beneficial symbiosis. We cultivate healthy interconnections within our communities and ecosystems. Respect, care, sustainability, circular economies, these are all mainstays of our way of life. Our extraordinary civic designs foster health and happiness, making us more resilient to the challenges of our environs, such as fires and floods, while furthering atmospheric repair and ecological regeneration. SYMBIOCENE is most known for our web of vibrant neighborhood community hubs. You'll find us gathering here for food, festivities, education, cultural events, and camaraderie. Here, we welcome people from all walks of life. Visitors, you can find a hub within walking distance from anywhere in our city or use easy-access carbon-friendly transportation. Come meet some of the residents of SYMBIOCENE.
I remember when I lost my mind. It was before the fires. It was the life I had then. got laid off, got no sense of purpose, no sense of connection, just this constant state of depression or anxiety or just nothing. And then the fires hit and everything was turned upside down. It was horrific, devastating. Didn't know how we were going to survive, but here we are. And wow, what a difference. With all of the resources of this community, all of the human resources, we are very human and very resourceful. And with access to all of the knowledge that's been shared in the world, what we have built here, way better than what we had before. What I want to tell you about is the hubs. You go to a hub when you want anything, when you want to hang out with people, when you want to practice your faith or explore others, when you want to get some food or bring some food, when you want to reach a help desk that can help you with anything, or at least try.
I am a songbird. Since forever, my species has migrated, but in the past years, our routes have become deadly to travel. So my parents dropped out of the migration. Here, they recognized Utopia when they saw it. The whole place is green and growing. The air and water are clean, the beaches protected. The human lifestyles create all the habitats we could want. Low earthship hills with green roofs and shrubby yards, high cliff-like dwellings, lush gardens where young and old gather and point and watch us share in the abundance. All of the habitats are connected to each other. Roadkill is the stuff of bird lore. Now there are safe, green ways for everyone to move across the city. My generation is the first to be hatched and raised here among the humans, where we might just survive. They know we are here. They let us practice our culture without persecution. They put collars and bells on their cats. They are noisy at times, but they have rhythms as we do. They respect a quiet quotient at dawn and dusk when we sing out to each other. All of us, furred, finned, web-footed, winged, rooted, spored, and microbial, are watching our humans. We don't yet trust them, and we call out to remind them. Remember, remember, we are all relations.
Check out my hat. It's made entirely out of mushrooms. You can hardly tell. Anyway, I got to tell you something. My dad won the James Beard Award in the already been served food category. Can you believe it? People are freaking out about his chili paste. Dad says that back in the day, people felt the same way about lab-grown meat and plant-based fish. Mom isn't surprised because her company's been making pet food out of ABS food for years. We're going to go to the hub tonight to celebrate with a fancy dinner. Want to come? Good. I'm going to order my favorite ugly fruit salad. You know, the one with those heirloom tomatoes that are grown by the green belt? They are the best. Can I tell you something? Don't tell my dad, but I'm not so sure about this ABS food. I really like local farm-grown food. Do you know that you can track it from farm to fork to fertilizer? It's easy. I'll show you how to do it. You just log into the Smart Food Grid. Yeah, 3 cheers for the circular economy. Be a hero and get your waste to zero. Anyway, my dad says I'm spending too much time in front of screens, but I'm doing fine. I met with my digital health doula yesterday, and my health habits are A-OK. Oh, the ice cream truck is here. I gotta run. I gotta hand them a bag that we have out back from our veggies and fruits. You know, ever since they've been accepting backyard fruit and veggies, we have been making bank. Anyway, gotta go. See you tonight.
I can't express how much my life has changed since joining the SYMBIOCENE community. As a person with a disability, I feel heard, respected, and included in all aspects of life. My wife and I were fortunate enough to welcome our first child here, and we both took parental leave, raising her and watching her grow together. Our Earthship home perfectly tailors to our every need through the use of solar, gray water, and house-based agriculture. Our universal designers created spaces that fit what people need at every stage of life, and this means that more people can have comfort, freedom, and safety in all the places that we live, work, play, and learn. Every community member has the right and ability to work and contribute, while all of our essential needs are met through the implementation of universal basic income. Lifelong learning is at the heart of our community, and leadership roles, education, neighborhoods, and other groups feature diverse representation across all ages, races, abilities, and genders. Every day, I'm blown away by the digital tools that are available to us. Nature and technology work in perfect harmony. Real-time translation, captioning, and ASL interpretation is easily done through the use of augmented technologies. I take comfort in knowing that as we age, our community has in place everything we'll need, but most importantly, our daughter will be able to learn of our history through the Learning Library and be taught important lessons from our elders for years to come, far beyond our time here.
One of SYMBIOCENE's main economies was tourism. They wanted to show off what they were capable of. Instead of paying me as a consultant, they gave me an all-inclusive week in their town. I was picked up in an art car taxi. This thing had plants growing on the top. It had projections and pink lights below. And the driver was a local sound healer. My first stop was lunch at the Andy Wormhole Cafe. Each table in the cafe was biolocated in 2 places. After that, we toured SYMBIOCENE's version of thrift store. The front had a subsidized makerspace with 3D printers, laser cutters, and some young and old seamstresses to teach people how to alter, trim, and personalize once used fashion. Tourists and locals started to donate time and equipment to these passionate pursuits, and the remainder of the budgets were funded inside the town crypto trust. People had found their passion and their purpose, and money had been converted into a true and flexible energy exchange. I was impressed, and I encourage you to trade your consulting skills for one of the most epic and delightful weeks of your life.
SYMBIOCENE. Movements like these are traditionally championed by a charismatic leader. With SYMBIOCENE, a combination of open access, data obsession, social networking, and proactive design grew a small planned community into a thriving 100,000 person population within 10 years. Further, with clever use of the cooperative business model, the community could operate within existing social and financial systems of the nation while filling the gaps traditionally left by capitalism, further driving migration and growth of the community. The cooperative provided the capitalization structure to support equitable resource distribution while also acting as a bridge for trade outside the community. As a historian, it's been a wild ride watching the community grow over the years.
Wow. Well, wow, that was something. There's a lot of questions that immediately pop into mind. Where can we get those taxis?
Where can we get those taxis? And can I go to the Andy Wormhole Cafe for a lunch?
Andy Wormhole Cafe, what's going on there? Are those going to be, excuse me, worm meal hamburgers? You can do it. They do exist. I noticed that the houses are quite curved. They look like sort of dome houses. And one of them looked like a shot from Lord of the Rings. Was that Hobbiton with the circular door? What was the true inflexible? What was the third word? True inflexible something that I didn't understand. And is that hat all? Oh, true inflexible energy exchange. I'd like that explained. And was that hat really all made of mushrooms, including the fur? I would like to know that. That was just, I liked the raised beds in the vegetable gardens too. They work. So lots of stuff for a deeper dive. And obviously a huge amount of thinking went into that. there is a beg the question, which is there's an outside world, and Symbiosis is trading with it. So what happens when everything is like Symbiosis, and who are you going to trade with then?
Yeah,
That's a real question.
That's a marvelous question. One of the things that the key to Symbiosis structure is that it's made up of houses lead to neighborhoods, lead to communities, lead to hamlets, and all of our economies, as well as our democracy, is done from the bottom up. So it's done through consensus and consent on its way up. There's wide variety within Symbiocene, so a lot of richness that's there. And it's actually intended to fit within a landscape that if eventually things continue to percolate out that way, working off of Christopher Alexander's pattern language, where you have a range of different sizes of different communities who could have their own specializations and trade routes between them.
Wow, so the model is actually organic. It's sort of like mushrooms. Except with mushrooms, you get a ring, and presumably you're not going to have an empty space as you expand outward. So it's dare I say, it's like garlic mustard, but we don't like that.
Yes, and a lot of where those hollow spaces would be, those are the green spaces, because Symbiosis is integrated into the forest that it's inside of as well.
Woo. What about the hat? Is it real?
I'll have to let Colby speak to that.
It is a real hat, however, it's not actually.
It will be
it's a
really
prop,
made
but
of
yes, it will be
mushrooms. It is
completely made out of
Symbiosis.
mushrooms.
It is going to make, including the fur part?
Yes, they'll be like,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we know how to do that yet?
No, we know how to do,
We know how to do the leather. You can do the leather
you can
part.
do the leather, you can do the leather, and you can do softer texture. So I don't know about the fur yet.
And maybe our future 3D printers allow you to print, actual organic materials, right? So we don't know what we're going to see in 10 years.
So using basic building blocks and then mixing them up and coming out as something you print. It would be awfully difficult to print fur.
I'm gonna go look that up to see if there's a signal for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colby. I just want to give
Very
space for
good.
Senator Boyer.
Yeah, thank
Would
you.
like to share some thoughts?
That was all very exciting. I really have to see what I saw was the relationships among the youth and the elders, the relationships with the people and with the birds, everybody on the same level, and how symbiotic they're working together at all times. So that was my big takeaway, and that was really happy to see that. The one question I have, and maybe Margaret would like to know this as well, is where can we get a digital health doula? Are they available for hire?
It does seem like with the mixture of the connections that, as you point out, that Symbiocene is kind of based on, and the growth of increasingly customized medicine and the ability to have remote connection for that, the digital doulas hopefully are something that's maybe an inevitability. I'll mention quickly also that links to all of the different technologies and principles that we talked about are available at this link. Unfortunately, Zoom doesn't let us put all of them in sort of one block, but there's details there as well.
Excellent.
We can add those onto Disco too.
Perfect. Well done and well researched. Yes, there is a lot of online health already, but there's going to have to be some additions that you plug into your computer, like to take your blood pressure and all of those things. But for obviously major operations, so they can do already remote surgery. They can do that already. It's just a bit yucky, my opinion. Yeah, we based the long pen on that when we were doing remote real verifiable signatures. So the technique for doing it with a robotic pen was inspired by remote surgery, but with a lot of modifications, because you can't scribble on a body with a knife.
I have a question about the population. There's 120,000. So where do you let more people in? Do you let them out? What happens? How did you come up with that number?
Fantastic question. So really, we knew that it had to be around 100,000 for the choice that we made as we were doing our process. It is not a rigid and inflexible thing, and is able to grow and shrink as needed. So 120,000 was roughly the population. It is a planned community in terms of how it's growing, with intention behind that. But there aren't specific quotas around that thing. Our general approach is one of permissiveness. That it's a plurality of different things that live there.
So it grows by sort of addition of neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So if you got a huge influx of, say, another 60,000, could you handle that quickly?
Well, fantastic question. One of the things that was pointed out was that it can be done in sort of a franchise model, so that rather than all of it turning into one vast metropolis, if there's a huge amount of people, that's where you start the next neighboring community, and you can have it then grow out to whatever is sort of a sustainable size there.
Mm-hmm. I see.
And you'll also notice that the majority of our homes are the Earthship homes that we talk about for the fixed homes, but we also have a nomadic approach and connection, because some of our community members, they wanted to be able to be on homes that are able to move and go to other communities. So there's a specific hub that allows for individuals who want to basically set their home up in a nomadic way where they're actually able to trailer themselves up and go and come as they please. So we wanted to make sure that all individuals, regardless of how they wanted to situate themselves in a home environment, that they felt natural and included in that process.
And what is your governance model?
Fantastic. So it's based off of a combination of sociocracy and consensus, where each smaller unit, so each community, makes their decisions probably by consensus or consent. The default is for that consent model to then percolate upwards. Each community would select an elected person to go to the next level up, and you continue that up with small enough steps that consensus and consent is functional, because beyond about 30 people, it gets fairly challenging. That's the default, but any given community at any given scale could choose by consent to change their governance model. Again, we really do encourage a plurality of different ways of doing it, but that would be the default. I'll mention also that some of the other details, we did put together sort of a temporary website, at least, that goes into some of the nitty-gritty that we're not able to cover here.
Perfect. So,
and we'll have the anthologies as well coming out.
Great. Is it an anarchist model, basically, really?
Well, with consent, it's not, but it takes a lot of work to tune the ears coming from majority democracy to be able to listen to what other people's needs are, rather than simply listening to them to figure out how to erode and counter their position. And that's one of the reasons why it's done at the lowest level, is because it trains people around conflict resolution and communication.
What do you think of that, Yvonne?
Well, I like it, and I like it especially that they've worked the youth in with the elders, and they're talking about being able to access knowledge. Well, can you access ancestral knowledge, and how far back can you do that? Because that's where you're going to be able to figure out some of the problems that you could run into. And the symbiotic nature of the youth and the elders will guide the way as well, as long as you've got that ancestral knowledge coming in with it.
That's why we put a really important focus, sorry, Daniel, on the learning libraries and the opportunity for the elders to actually meet with the youth in those learning libraries. In addition to whatever they can take out of the library, there also, I would imagine, be time for story time and sharing of real historical events that took place, so that that knowledge, isn't distorted over time, and that you can really trade it down. I mean, we see that today in some of our greatest cultures that are still passing down knowledge today from our elders. And so I think we wanted to really appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's like the human library.
I'm gonna have to jump in here. I apologize, everyone, just for the sake of time, respect to everyone. There's so much richness. We are gonna have the anthologies coming out. There's more resources and bits going, but I just want to pause for one moment and do another big round of applause for SYMBIOCENE. And a massive thanks to your facilitator, Shannon Weber, and Elfzar, who's done this incredible artwork that we're seeing behind you here as well. Thank you so much, team.
Thank you.
And we are on to our third group coming up next. So we have CHRYSALIS, who's also presenting with a video. I'm just queuing it up right now. So once again, we're going to jump into CHRYSALIS's CHRYSALIS, maybe we'll find out in the video. We will jump into their presentation. I'll ask our fellows here on Zoom to hold on the chat while it's playing and just immerse yourself in the future. And we'll come back afterwards. We'll have time to engage in chat and hear more with Margaret and Senator Boyer and the Chrysalians or Chrysalites. So I will cue it up for them.
Great.
And let's go 10 years into the future to visit Chrysalis.
Hey, could I get a glass of water, please?
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. In 2023, the fire and the flood destroyed a large part of the city we now call Chrysalis. The question was, how do you survive something like that, come back better? And so for us, for generations to come, I hope, it became really important to find happiness and a sense of purpose in everything we did. So I was a first responder after it. And just, you see that the homes and businesses and people they're just gone. It was really that bad. But it didn't end us. I'm happy to say it gave us a real jolt, and that jolt sort of became a spark. And so the challenge, of course, is you just don't know how to build the future and know what's going to happen. But we were keen to get started, and that energy, that drive to rebuild as fast as we could, we just had to trust each other with that. And so we imagined new ways to add sustainability to our everyday lives. We continued talking to each other. There was a lot of talking and voting, and we still do that. And I think we've built it back better. There's gardens up on the roof. We're planting milkweed up there now, in fact, and it feels really nice. I guess all in all, I realized that, we have tools, but we're part of nature too. And so that's an interesting cycle and a circle to have, as well as the way we look into ourselves now as a way of looking back out. For many, I'd say that that's kind of our religion, our spiritual core, to find our uniqueness, collective power, to connect with the planet and with all of us. I'm glad you came. It's really great.
Thanks, Granddad.
Chrysalis, it's a city as a garden. I was basically a kid during the wildfires and the flooding. Rebuilding the city with a smaller population was a chance to rise from the ashes and the silt. That excited me. Our city motto is loving hearts, willing minds, and lots of curiosity. Now I know you're going to ask about the gondolas. All the roads were washed out. It was the cheapest and fastest way to restore travel in a hilly terrain without a large infrastructure. But this was a moment when we thought, you know what? We can do this better. We don't need to replace the old system. Plus, people loved those gondolas. Of course, we do have a skeletal road system, but we have no fossil fuel vehicles. Originally, some folks thought no cars at all would be ideal, but we have to consider the diversity of our people and their mobility needs. Overall, our goal was to build a city that is walkable, bikeable, and appealing, and it's working great. A lot of the walking paths people use are made of old tires and building rubble. That was huge. Really got the circular economy going. Use and reuse and repurpose and regenerate. That's how we do it here.
Tell me about the domes.
We discovered domes are the safest design for seismic activity and other disasters, which obviously was on our minds. The biomaterials that we used were mold-proof, fire-resistant, and sequestered carbon, like hempcrete. It has largely replaced wood and plastic as building materials. It was amazing. We've got hills of the stuff.
Nature really is the whole ethos here in Chrysalis.
Absolutely. Rewilding ancient migration corridors for salmon, deer, bears, and even insects has been huge. And we are so proud of the Riverwalk. It's a way to honor the river. Our watershed management is our way to keep the river healthy. Within and around the city are interlocking swales, retention ponds, and wetland areas. We caused the fire and flooding that altered our city forever. But working with and respecting nature has restored our city. And now the humans in it are thriving.
You know, when my dad would talk about Granddad, he would talk a lot about how, like, sensible and practical he is. But I don't see that. I think he's naive. Like, I think this whole place is naive. I really want so much to believe that this could make a difference, that it could be a real model. But there's so many things that just don't make sense. Like the Chrysalians, they only work 5 hours a day. How can they afford that? How did they afford all of this? How can they defend that luxury of time? What are they doing with it? Are they not bored? Was my thought, until I saw my name on the chore wheel, and that is why I'm here at our plots doing some weeding. It's actually quite meditative, I have to say. Although there was a guy that came up to me earlier who told me that he could really teach me about the birds and the bees, because, you know, keeping the pollinators here is so important. And I politely declined. This place really does have its moments, honestly. Like yesterday, around the dinner table, some people just started improvising a play about spirituality and poo, I believe. And on the table next to us, there was a group of people that were weaving baskets together. You know, in my 7 years of doing this series, I have never met a city, been in a city that's more, I don't know, relaxed, but also so productive. It doesn't make any sense. Although then I guess it does make perfect sense. Like, we're not what we do. We're not what we produce. Being is enough, connecting back to nature, to ourselves, to the world. It's all connected. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, do you see this? Do you see? Hello.
I'm busy drawing a bee.
Did you make that at school?
No, I made it at creativity camp.
Is that something you do on the weekends?
No, it's something special we do before the festivals. We sing and march all the way down the river walk. Every camp is doing a different life cycle. Mine is doing bees. Then we're going to do the worm dance for this finale. I know a lot of worms.
Oh, you know worms.
On the roof, we're wiggle buddies through the social ecological human-animal continuum. I take care of them and they take care of me. It's like a circle.
What about school?
There's no school this week, just camp.
Your parents worry that you're taking time away from learning.
Away? There's no away from learning.
I learned about the monarch butterflies this week. I saw them. It's amazing that you brought them back.
They came back because we made it nice for them.
Yes, Chrysalis is a nice place.
But they only come here for some sleepovers. Mama talks to people all over the country. We made a path for them. We listen to them. With willing hearts and loving minds and lots of curiosity.
Sure, I get it.
I don't think you do. A lot of grown-ups don't.
What do you think you'll do when you grow up?
Part-time engineer, part-time sculptor, part-time aerobics instructor. You think it's silly?
No, actually, I don't think that's silly at all.
Are you going to stay?
Here.
Yeah, in Chrysalis. We all help each other here. I'll help you.
Do you think I should?
Yeah, I think you should.
these bees.
Huh? Oh, my friends are here. It's time for me to go. Bye.
That was something, and an incredible child who helped that team as well. Thank you so much. And if you want those in fellows here with us in Zoom, if you want to share in chat, just one of the highlights for you from that presentation. And I will invite Leon and Kay up to the virtual stage in just a moment to respond to any questions, but want to hold the floor. Maybe Senator Boyer, I'll have you go first and then over to Margaret to share some thoughts.
I was so drawn into that I just wanted to step over and go into Chrysalis and just be part of it, because I would just kind of blend in. Everything would just work. It felt like it would work. The one thing I was especially taken with was the river. The river is medicine, and how important that is, because river is life, and without that river there is no life. And I think that was really a key point that was running through the whole video. And I also found that the relationships with the bees, the worms, and the among the people was something that was really touching for me as well. And it was much like the symbiotic relationship that we saw in the last video. So kudos to this group. That little angel is quite the actress, and she's going places. Thank you for that.
Margaret, do you have some such thoughts to share before I bring up Leon?
Very happy that wetlands were mentioned. We need really to think a lot about them and the services that they provide, and particularly right where Senator Boyer and I are at the moment. We have a fight going on about wetlands, and we need to give them lots of positive publicity because they are mitigators of climate change. I would like to know more about spirituality and poo, but maybe we'll do that later. Loved the aerial transportation and would be very interested to see the numbers on that. So person said it was cheaper. I would like to hear about that. And I would like to know about hempcrete. So hemp concrete, I take it that's available now. And I'm going to look that up because I didn't know about it. Sounds great. So deep dive in research. You obviously did a lot of research, and I take it that we're going to get some links from you to things like hempcrete and spirituality and poo. Is that too much to ask for?
So before we get to the answers, we would like to first begin acknowledging that we are on land that has been inhabited by indigenous people for thousands of years. We acknowledge that Chrysalis community is located on the traditional territory of the Tulamni people of the Yukos tribe. So
we don't know.
I'll touch on the spirituality and poo. We had a great team that worked together, and we did lots of research. So the poo, we're talking about biosolids. It's treated human waste that we use as fertilizer. So, talking about it while we're eating and just making it a natural part of life and the conversation is what we wanted to portray to everyone.
So circular waste management. Pop your head in and say, great.
Nicely done. And just tying back into that whole sense of nature connectedness and the person, community, planet, if it's all connected, then what they're putting in their mouths is what's coming out, is what's growing, what they're going to eat. So there's room for some humor about that, as well as some reverence, together.
Well done.
I especially enjoyed that map.
I love the map too. Yeah.
The map was beautiful. It was like I could just walk. I could just walk over here and then go take a bike over here. Like it was lovely. It really left me with a very good feeling.
I think it's funny you should say that, because the river was sort of central in how we were thinking about how things would be connected. So there's a reference in the video about the river walk and how that river is and its tributaries is winding through our hills. And that's part of why we want the gondolas to sort of move across the top. But we realized very quickly when we were talking that although we're a city, it's located within a watershed. And so the territory of the city expands beyond, and as well as rewilding throughout portions of the city, there's a broader environment that we are stewards of, and not just in terms of sort of managing it through, you know, environmental science, but also through how we manage water in the city with grey water filters and all those sorts of mechanisms, but also the culture that we have, the daily practices that we have that reinforce its importance and our connectedness to it.
And if I could touch on the transportation, we have our regional halls, they provide access to the food forest, foraging, and the wildlands. And we're also a stop on a regional train and bus routes. And our gondola network keeps expanding. You know, the passengers can catch a glimpse of the countryside, all the agricultural spaces, and the wild places that exist in between the city. You know, we're hoping to transition away from airplanes.
I really feel as if there was a spiritual connection to what you were to pretty much everything you were talking about. It felt like you're not just talking about the land, you're talking about the spiritual connection to the land, and not just being stewards of the land, but being spiritually connected to the land as a responsibility. So I think that's what, you know, probably one of my main takeaways from this, and the fact that the river and the water was mentioned so frequently as a core principle throughout. And I take it to be with the sacredness of the water as medicine.
Yeah, and I think that's really experienced in multiple levels. So there's an interweaving of like your daily enjoyment of like the beauty and the aesthetics of these things. It's built into the education, which is like, as we saw with the child, like is also part of fun and culture, so that, you know, technical knowledge is built into spirituality, much more like it used to be sort of in traditional societies, where, you know, deep knowledge about how things works goes with a deep respect for how things work. And so, yeah, it goes around in that cycle.
Very well done.
Very, very, very well done. Thank you so much, CHRYSALIS. And a big thank you as well to your facilitator, Colin Steele, and your illustrator, Eve Schuyler, who put together some extraordinary work to bring CHRYSALIS to life. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm just going to bring it back to here and bring it back to all of us, because we're 3 teams in already. We've got 1 more team to go that's going to be presenting live, and we're going to get to a bit of a finale. But before we do, Margaret, can you help perk us up a little bit as we get into the back half? I'm just going to invite everyone on the screen here, but over to you, Margaret.
I think Yvonne Boyer should join me.
Okay.
Why don't you suggest a stretching exercise, because they're bored with mine.
Well, how about some jumping jacks, everyone?
No.
Just like this, just like this.
Like this, like this.
Birds. We'll do bird
birds.
movements. Yes, bird movements. And then we can do some bees, like this.
Like this? Is that bees?
Bees.
Okay. Bees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the worm.
Is that worms?
The worm.
And what about some water?
Yes, the water. Yes, the water. Yeah.
What about some rain?
Yep, the rain comes down.
What about a tornado? No, we're not going to do the tornado. No. Okay, so a little bit of this. A little bit of ear squeezing.
Yeah.
And a little bit of head scratching and pulling her hair. And a deep breath. Right. Do the worm again. Never seen that before. That's great. Did you just make that up?
Well, yeah, kind of. It's just what I do.
Okay, all right.
It's a Practical Utopias original. Well, hopefully that's a bit enlivening, but we've got a team that's presenting live and they might have needed the wake up as well, because I just want to take a moment to acknowledge this group because this is a pretty extraordinary group of people. We're going to have KINTSUGI join us next. And this group is mostly located in Asia Pacific. So I think it's 3, 4, 2 o'clock in the morning. And you've taken upon yourselves to come and join us live to share, which is just extraordinary. They have a special program for us as well. So I know if you've got it available, Margaret, if you're able to, they've got a background. There we go. Same Senator Boyer, if you have it. If you don't, that is totally okay as well. But just to get ready to join KINTSUGI in their ceremony. And I'm going to bring their presenters onto the stage in just one moment, just to get everyone up here. We've got Eloise. James is coming. Well, that's an outfit, James.
Oh, wow.
Nova is here.
Woo.
Is it 1 in the morning for you, Nova? Or what time is it right now? 2 in the morning. Jan is here. And Liz, the rock star, is here as well. I'm just going to cue Mark in one moment. And I will turn it over to KINTSUGI to present.
Wonderful.
And oh, hold on, I missed one thing. Sorry, Mark, I forgot to just include one thing for them. There we go.
There it is.
All right, KINTSUGI, Mark and KINTSUGI, over to you.
Welcome to this celebration of our beloved kin. My name is Eloise, and I have had the privilege of walking beside kin in the final years of their life. As one of the spiritual leaders of this community, I am humbled to guide this service. Thank you for gathering in our shared community temple today. I trust that you enjoyed your short, carbon-free trip here from home, reflecting on one of the long-lasting gifts that kin left with us: no traffic. The size of our gathering is testament to the impact kin had on this community. If you need a break at any point, please help yourself to fruit or water provided in the river garden outside. Just be mindful of the rising water levels, but keep peace in knowing that our city is now resilient enough to coexist with the river's abundance. Today, we will hear from loved ones who, like us, have had shared the privilege of knowing kin. We will reflect on how kin transformed this community through sustainable innovation, and importantly, how our values and interests as a collective were shifted with their leadership. But first, we'll take a moment of silence to honor the return of kin's physical and spiritual energy to this country. These lands, these waters, these forests, and all of the beings in this place, past, present, and future. We now have the honor of hearing from kin's dear friend, Leanne. Thank you, Leanne.
I have known kin for over 6 decades, shared ups and downs, turning this town to be a green and just place. The journey actually was painfully slow at the start. About 10 years ago, I got fed up by the chaotic and endless debates in town hall meetings. I asked him, how could we bet on this process? What if some people meant to stall it or just wouldn't agree? And Kin was being Kin. With their lightheartedness told me to be patient. The spring is coming, they said. The water is flowing underneath, birds starting to sing. Too frustrated to hear back then, I left. And having traveling and seeing how communities work, now I can hear the chorus of birds, noisy yet beautiful. As I'm hearing it right now, amazing sounds about the strengths of cooperation and trust, something Kin has always believed. Kin would smirk happily and say, I told you so. Thank you, Kin, for taking the leap of faith, for listening to the wind and water, and for putting up with my bad temper.
Thank you so much for sharing, Leanne. Next, we will hear from James. Thank you, James.
I've known Kin for 10 years. When we first met, I was just a little kid. I worried about how I would talk to a 93-year-old living fossil. Kin was so cool. Together, we built my self-sustaining tiny home, complete with composting toilet. Kin helped me get my shit together. Now it's part of our community's human neural system. Kin taught me how important art is for our community, that everyone is an artist in their own way. Kin showed me that each time we communicate, it's an act of cultural practice, an act of connection. I miss talking to you, Kin, and sharing line-caught fish and chips by the river. In honor of your memory, I will pay it forward to those younger and older than me. Our community's circle of life will continue on, just as you intended. Bloody hay fever. See you later, mate.
Thank you for sharing, James. We now have the pleasure of hearing from Nova. Thank you, Nova.
Thank you. As an elder, Kin made it their business to create safe, healthy, creative, and empathetic spaces for families. Spaces that embrace the wild energy of our children. Kin started by creating spontaneous pop-up groups. These play groups would show up in different neighborhoods and spaces with trusted friends, friends that soon became our solar families. Today, solar families help us parent as a community with less friction. Solar families help our kids explore the world around them. Our children learn about permaculture, fitness, the arts, nature, architecture, woodwork, cooking, farming, literature, tech, and more. In about 3 years, or as Kin would say, in 1,000 days, these play groups transformed into intergenerational well-being circles. The Kin well-being circles, they're called now. Kin did not do this alone. They worked with health practitioners, parents, elders, educators, farmers, artists, cooks, funders, and others. Today, the Kin well-being circles are part of our culture and help us embark on a lifelong journey towards regenerative, physical, mental, and spiritual health. We move more, we eat better, we live one with nature, and we express our sense of purpose together as a community. So, to our birthing doula, our child's mushroom foraging partner, thank you, Kin, for helping us make this city a village.
Thank you so much for sharing, Nova. We will now hear from Rachel. Thank you, Rachel.
In 2022, I was trading currencies. Fast money, fast cars, fast pleasures. I made millions obliterating family businesses that had thrived for generations. And I loved it. Well, that's what I thought. When I met Kin, I was mesmerized by their joy. Actual joy. I still suspect it was Kin's smile that started melting the ice caps. I wanted in. It took time, but Kin gently guided me to use my skills to help the collective. I run the market where we trade our locally grown food. And our food is grown for abundance and sustenance and for the health of the ecosystem. I'm a member of our neighbourhood governance circle that advises our elected leaders on seasonal innovation plans for the city. And I helped establish our economy where we trade at the pace of nature and our wealth is shared with all. It turns out my slight need to consume was just a hollowness of connection. Kin saw my mask and my mess, and they loved me for it.
Thank you so much for sharing, Rachel. Before we cross the floodwaters on our electric or sailboats to the island for river, for food, singing and dancing, I want to leave you with some of Kin's wisdom to carry with you. Back then, before this place, like many, Kin saw a broken world on the edge of despair. Kin and many others chose to transform that fear and those fractures into a space where hope and love has flourished. Firstly, it was learning to solve the problems of the world by reviewing our values, our interaction with community, and importantly, our role as a species on this planet. Let's all remember Kin well, but as they themselves would remind us, the future is not made of memories, but of hope. And with that, I will pass this on to Liz to leave us with some inspiration through art. Thank you, Liz.
Hello, friends. I'm Liz, the singer of White Noise and Vanity. Our name is to remind us that our brains, bodies, and nervous systems are in charge. All the rest is white noise and vanity. I met Kin when I was struggling, and they helped me build a platform to change the world through music. Sharing stories provided frameworks for how to be with a myriad of other equal beings in this beautiful place together. Kin helped me with our breakthrough album, enriched with rhythms of the river and underscored with heartbeat to help restore our nervous systems. All the profits go to fund education programs that rehumanize our youth. I hope you are proud, Kin. Music has the ability to remind us of the power of arts to enrich communities and build belonging. My friendship with Kin was like this too, enriching, and they gave me a place to belong. I feel so lucky to have known them. Rock on, my good friends, in art we trust.
I'm on mute. Thank you so much, KINTSUGI, especially in the late night hours, the wee hours, for coming to join us. I'm going to bring Margaret and Senator Boyer back on stage here and remove you just for the moment. And I'll just invite those in chat as I'm doing this for our fellows who are here. If you want to share just one thing, if you can pick just one thing that delighted you about that possibility, about that possible future. I'm just going to grab Senator Boyer and spotlight her. Senator Boyer, Margaret, would love to get some of your thoughts, reactions.
Where can I meet this person? And what a novel way of doing it, through a memorial service. So what has struck me about all of the totality of the presentations, they're all so different, but they have some central themes, and we can talk about those a little later, but this was a wonderful way of presenting it.
I really found that the background really set the scene, and I couldn't put it on mine because I'm really restricted as a senator on what I can put on my background. But I do have a little picture of it up here. And so I found that a very nice touch, and I was so looking forward to meeting all of you, and you didn't disappoint. My biggest takeaway is the inspiration through art and music, and how that runs through everything, and how it became part of the celebration. It became the celebration because there wasn't anything to be sad about. It was a celebration. I also really liked the idea of the solar family and within 1,000 days, having things switched around. So I really want to know more about that. And I thought it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Thank you.
We've got Trish and we've got Tom here. And just before turning over to you, I just want to also acknowledge Pete Shepard, KINTSUGI's facilitator, and Charlie Lynn, your illustrator as well. But Tom, Trish, there's some questions here. I will turn it over for you, and I will get some more commentary as well from Margaret and Senator Boyer.
I'll just mention, and thank you for those comments, but one thing we realized in putting together this narrative, that the solutions are easy, the technical solutions, the systems, all of those things, and we've seen them in all 7 previous presentations. In some sense, you know, they all belong in the same place. And KINTSUGI, of course, is the act of repair by making something more beautiful. What does that repair become? And what we realized was the thing that humanity needs to fix first and foremost is ourselves. And what is the means by which we do that? You know, so many systems and technologies are misused or appropriated. So we really started from the basis of what we think is the common denominator among humanity, which is imagination and the power to tell stories, so that we can imagine every single system and every single solution we've seen in all 7 previous presentations being a part of this place and being a part of every place. But how do we get there? That's the big question, right? That's always the question. You know, we don't have political consensus. We don't have, you know, popular will. What is the one thing that we might all have, right? The ability to share these stories and imagine a better future. So that for us, that's really what we focused on. It's about how we fix the thing that most needs fixing, our ability to relate to each other.
Yeah, that's central.
And that's one of the themes we see running through everything is the relationships. The relationships are key, the relationships with the earth and the animals and with each other. It's critical.
And establishing trust. So this presentation gave us a bunch of different views of that, beginning with the first one, I'm impatient. What do I do about being impatient? And how do you learn to trust enough and have enough hope so that you can continue on through your impatience and wanting it to happen now? Of course, we all do want it to happen now, but packing up and leaving may not be the answer when it's not happening just immediately. So what I've seen in all of these, bringing them all together, if I had to pick one word, it would be circles. So it's in the housing design, it's in the town arrangements, it's in the waste circles, the reusing ideas, and it is in the circles of life and circles of relationships. So instead of squares and lines, we saw a huge number of circles. And maybe that is something that can go into the general discourse, moving on from practical utopias, more circles.
I really like that idea because within those circles falls all of those relationships.
Yeah.
They're all within, somewhere within.
One of our key starting points was the idea of, and a lot of us are in Australia, so the idea of the Aboriginal yarning circle, in which consensus and inclusivity is reached. And I might just invite Trish to weigh in a little bit more on that, because this idea of the inclusion and the circle colored almost all our systems, starting with governance and finance. Trish.
Well, of course, Kintsugi didn't start from nothing. It is part of a 4.5 billion year evolutionary story. And we are on traditional country of extraordinary First Nations wisdom that we could draw from as we transformed our ways. And part of that was these yarning circles at a very hyper-local level within small communities, where we would have a season of engagement annually that would then bring the voice of all community to the elected member group. And that was a cyclical process. So it is a cyclical process. So we can validate what we hear from each community, and then that's embedded within the decision-making and budgeting decisions.
That's very logical. That makes perfect sense to me. And I think I think it works here. Definitely it works. You could see it with every voice that was speaking. You could see the circle being embedded in that particular area and how it would move into another circle and within another and another and another, but all back to the same one or forward, either way.
Margaret, you mentioned the word trust, which is something that we hold very dearly. And there's a saying, move at the speed of trust, which initially feels quite frustrating, as Lian expressed in Yin's eulogy. But move at the speed of trust doesn't mean to necessarily go slow. Once you have established trust, you can move really quickly. And that tenet sits alongside of others, which comes back to circularity. So putting relationships before tasks is also another important principle of Kintsugi. And that's not just human relationships, all relationships with all living beings on this planet and in the cosmos. We also have, through the First Nations wisdom and cultural sharing, developed ways of deep listening and thinking in generations, not just generations of humans, but generations of all living beings. And it all comes back, of course, to this place and from this place. And we look after this place in a joyful spirit.
Thank you for that, Trish. And thank you, Tom. And thank you, Kintsugi, especially for being here with us live at some crazy hours of the day for most of you. And special thanks to Pete as well, your facilitator. We'll hear from him soon. And Charlie Lynn, your illustrator as well. I'm going to remove a couple spotlights here. We're through our showcases, which is just amazing. There's so much goodness here for us to think about. So I just want to leave a question in chat for our fellows here, and for those of you who may be following at home as well, of all the possibilities that have been shared with us today and on Tuesday. And there are so many of those possibilities. If you could just choose one of them, or if you want to pick a concept or a theme or a pattern you notice that you would love to see become widespread reality, because these possibilities are already here in different parts and different pockets, what would be the one you would choose? So of all the possibilities shared in our showcases, what's one thing you're excited about becoming widespread reality? And I'll read out some of these here. There's some amazing ones as well. Equity and inclusion, deep listening, intergenerational community of passionate practice, worms, community and connection, symbiotic thinking, practical utopia circles around the world, being overdoing, true cost counting, transformation, fully functioning Earthship communities, end to capitalism now, regenerative economies for the win, circular economies, genuine equality, community. Together, we're making a circle of possibility, circularity based on trust and awareness, relationships, trust, inclusive community centrics, solar family, outdoor education, inner transformation. I think it's interesting here that so many of these have to do with us as people more than the technology behind this as well. And we've seen these past couple of days just the power of storytelling and sharing so much wisdom in a short period of time. But there's also so much power in the stories that we tell ourselves and how we go about in the world to make these possibilities reality. And I just want to take a moment and say a special thanks to all our fellows. It takes so much courage to be a trailblazer. It takes so much courage to go first and try something new that hasn't been done before. And that's what you've all done here in this journey with Practical Utopias. You made a leap into possibility, into the unknown with a group of strangers. And I'm in absolute awe of what you've accomplished together over these past 8 weeks. So I'd love you just give yourselves a big round of applause for some incredible, incredible work. And I want to invite those that would like to be part of a photo. I can grab a quick one now, but I think it should be one with a toast or a cheers. What do you think, Margaret?
Well, I'm going to say that you wildly exceeded my expectations. And I'm amazed at all the work you put in. It's really hopeful. And I would also like to ask you a question, which is, do you think we should do this again next year? A different group of people. What do you think? Because we are considering it. So should it be a toast? Do we have some imaginary glasses, some virtual glasses? Here they are. They're digital glasses. I raise a toast. Actually, I'll do it with my coffee cup. There we are. A toast to all of you. Thank you very much. You've been terrific. And I wish I was as smart as you.
We've got a whole bunch of big yeses in the audience. We'll be grabbing feedback from fellows and participants alike, but you are the founding fellows of Practical Utopias, not just the fellows and the founding participants, which is a very special role to take on. We're going to hear from you a little bit more in just a moment, but I want to invite the facilitators from today. We had some incredible groups, so I'm going to bring them up to the stage here, starting with Marianne. I'm going to bring up Shannon as well. I'm going to bring up Pete, if I can find Pete. I know it's early in the morning for you, Pete. And I'm going to bring up Colin in just a sec here as well. I will bring back Margaret. We are going to hear some more from Senator Boyer shortly as well. But facilitators, it has been quite a journey, and you've been our generous guides along the way here. I'd love to just give a moment for each of you, and we'll go like we did on Tuesday in order of the teams that presented. If you just want to share some of your reflections as we come to a close, and we'll start with you, Marianne, who captained Emergence.
So I'm really grateful for being part of this experience and about this amazing group I worked with for 8 weeks, and I'm kind of sad to leave this group. I would have loved to continue this experience. And what I really will remember about this experience is that they have overcome so many differences to craft and create such beauty. So that is just amazing. Thank you to them.
Thank you, Marianne. I also just want to shout out to your illustrator as well, Salim Busuru, who is the illustrator for Emergence. And next up, we're going to the SYMBIOCENE. And Shannon, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's so great to see everyone's presentations today. So gorgeous. I reflect on 2 important things from this amazing journey with my cohort, which is one, what it takes to show up. So the courage it takes, the time, the commitment, and that this sort of creative process is not easy. And so there is really something about the practice of showing up and being present for what is that I was really taken with. And then the second thing that I really learned from my group is the importance of building the skill of consensus. So consensus takes time. It is not the way we normally do things, and it's quite easy to default to other ways. And I saw my group do a great job of coming back to that again and again. And then I thought, well, this is a skill that I could build, that we could all work on building in our lives so that we can have that more as a default method of working together.
Thank you for highlighting that, Shannon. I think that's one of the valuable skills in so many of these collaboration and interpersonal skills that we need to pull these possibilities into the widespread present. Colin, over with Chrysalis. Would love to hear some of your reflections.
Thank you, Lisa. Like most people have said here, I've been tremendously awed and honored and inspired by everything that we've created here, and it has just been an absolute joy to accompany Chrysalis for the past 8 weeks or so. It's flown by. I see the chat lighting up too. Huge thanks to Eve, our wonderful illustrator. She's been tremendous for us from wire to wire. And thanks also to you, Lisa, and you, Margaret, and everyone else, Vanessa, and everyone else who's helped put this thing on. It's just as risky to produce this as it is to participate. So kudos to you as well.
Thank you, Colin. The chat is lighting up. I might push you just for a second on this one, even if you just give us a little bit. Not to put you too much on the spot.
What was that, Lisa?
I said the chat is lighting up with a little request from your team, just to put you on the spot with it.
Oh, I need to read it. Do it. Yeah, okay. And Margaret, especially for you, I also need to share with you something I've learned from my team. Yes, there it is. This is the Chrysalis dance.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colin. And Chrysalis is dancing too.
Yeah, it's a little side set. There we go.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Pete, what time is it for you, Pete?
It's 5:40 a.m. So I'm feeling good. Thank you all for waking me up and inspiring me so early in the morning. I think the main reflection I have is, and like repeating what everyone has said so far, just like what a thrill to be asked to help facilitate such an awesome program for the last 8 weeks. And the group of Kintsugians that I had the pleasure of interacting with was just so special. The takeaway I have really was, I think, articulated actually in some of the answers to some of the questions, which was all around learning and community. I just was kind of blown away by everyone on their own is such an intelligent human being in this group. But like together, when we start to learn in community and create change in community, it's so much more magical. Yeah, it's harder, and yeah, there's more tension, but through the tension, we create the change. And I was really taken by the whole experience and the journey of taking a bunch of strangers and seeing you all come together and learn and connect and create change in community. So hat tip to all of you. I don't have a hat, but like, let's just tip my imaginary hat. And also shout out Charlie Lynn, our incredible illustrator as well. I'm super excited to see the final illustrations that will come through. So yeah, thanks for having me, team.
Thanks for being here, Pete, and for getting up early with your coffee to come join us. And thank you, Shannon and Marianne and Colin. And I also want to thank Catherine and Adam and Lon and Mark, who've all been along this journey with us as facilitators, and all our illustrators. We've had Charlie Lynn, Trevor Clare, Ash Victoria, Shama Ilo Egbunam, Elfsar, Eve Schuyler, Salim Busaru, and Mikey. I'm sorry, Mikey, I will get your last name pronounced wrong, but Clover Coling. You've all been absolutely incredible and gone above and beyond in your work as well. So thank you so much for being here with us. And I'm going to bring back Senator Boyer, who has been with us here with our showcase, and also is one of our special guests as well, back for Social Worlds. Senator Boyer, you've trusted being along in this experience. You were one of the early people we reached out to. And before we knew what this was going to be, you're like, yes, I'll be part of it. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts as we're coming to an end here, especially as someone who sits in the position that you do and has such a holistic view of things, but also sees what happens in making meaningful change happen in the world.
Thanks, Lisa. There's one thing that's really, really important that I have to say is that I have to have a mushroom hat.
We can work on this.
Okay, we can work on that.
We'll talk to Chris. We'll work on this.
Okay. When I'm reflecting on the whole thing, and I watched as much as of the first series is possible. And I'm thinking about the enormity of what has actually happened here. We've taken individual people who they're so comprised with their thoughts and their own little human libraries of thoughts and how they do things and where they come from and their culture. And we've put all of these people together to create something absolutely incredible in each one of these groups. And it's like magic. Magic has come, and we've been able, with everything that we've seen, we can pull something out of each one of them in common themes. We can create a new utopia out of everything that we've seen right now. And I think the momentum needs to keep going. I've heard people say they're sad to see it over, but is there a way that people can stay connected? Because the magic is happening right now. People are on board. They want to see change. And that's when you start thinking out of the box, that's how life changes. That's how the world changes. And we've got all of these wonderful thinkers out of the box. Let's keep going and keep it alive. Next year, I'm in. Thank you. Thank you for including me. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Boyer. It means the world that you've been part of this. And I think that where we go from here, that one of the powers of learning communities is an experience like this, where we have an 8-week program. This isn't the end. It's merely the beginning. And hope lives in action has been something we've been talking about as well. And as people come together, we've seen new collaborations form, a number of things, and we're very excited to see where things go from here as well. So thank you so much for being part of this. And you brought up some things about now that we see, and it begs a question that I'd love to ask fellows as well. So I'll bring everyone on here so we can see everyone's beautiful faces as well. But would love to know from our fellows, from Margaret, from Senator Boyer, if you want to share in chat, having gone through this journey, what's one thing that you now see that you can't unsee? What's something that you now see that you can't unsee? And I'll read out some of these here as well. The power of collaboration. Utopia is real. A mushroom hat. Change for the better. We can do it. Change is possible and practical, and it can happen now. Power of asking, that there are no excuses for making changes. It starts with us, the humans. Hope for humanity. Waste in a whole new way. The need to change and how obvious some of those changes are. Hope at scale. Urgency for change and stronger community. If we work together, we can change the world. Gondolas. I don't always have to worry about leading things. There are other very capable people who can and will also step in. Waste. Everyone brings something else to the table. Change is possible. The connection between poo and spirituality, I will not be able to unsee that one either. Power of futures thinking. The satisfaction from serving others is more valuable than the protection from fear from wealth accumulation. Humans whom I don't know are more likely friends than foes. Change is so possible. Discourse and story is powerful. There's some just absolutely amazing things. Could just go on. The chrysalis dance is one. Global community education is key. This is just phenomenal. I'm absolutely in awe of what you've all done, what you've all accomplished here together, and how you've all come together. And one special thing about a learning community like this is it's so much more than just the people that are here on Zoom or watching the stream that are part of this. It's the people behind you. It's the people that have supported you to be a part and contribute and show up for something as intensive as this. So I want to just make one moment or create an opportunity here for gratitude, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but if you just want to share in chat, what's someone or something you are grateful for from this learning journey? And as we do that, I want to just thank a couple different organizations who helped make this possible as well. Just go over to some of my images, but I want to thank Project Drawdown, who's been one of our content sponsors along the way. And I know quite a few of you have looked at their resources and have drawn on their work going through this project. So big thanks to Project Drawdown. I also want to thank our scholarship program patrons. There's been some amazing organizations who've been behind this, who've enabled access to this program to so many people. So I want to thank GSB Ventures, Penguin Random House, Unity, Osler, Canadian Tire. And I want to thank our community partners. In the Fellows program alone, we've had over 40 countries represented. And we're a very small team at DISCO. We've worked with Margaret on this, and we wouldn't have been able to amplify the reach and involve and get this in front of so many of you without our amazing community partners as well. So I want to give a big thanks to them. And I want to take a moment as well, and I want to thank Vanessa. I don't know where she is right now. Vanessa is a behind the scenes wonder. So much of her work goes unnoticed, but if Vanessa weren't doing what she is doing, we wouldn't all be here today and we wouldn't all be part of this. So I want to give a big thanks to Vanessa. Thank you, Vanessa. And a big thank you to JP. JP, if you want to stick your head out, we can see you. JP has been at Margaret's side throughout this, helping with the tech setup, bringing books, helping with so much more, helping me, helping get Miro going. There's so much that JP has done. So big, big thank you to JP. And Margaret, thank you to you. I know the care, the consideration, the time, the commitment, the thoughtfulness that you brought to this. I've been in awe working alongside you, and I think we all are so grateful. So Margaret, thank you for you and for all you've done to bring this to life. And I want to leave it, Margaret, if you've got some thoughts to share before we wrap up, I will turn it over to you.
Well, I'm going to thank Lisa because she is the star. And without her, things just would have fallen apart pretty quickly. So I can have ideas, but implementing them is a whole other thing. And I will also thank Candace, who isn't here right now, but she was the one who first came to me and said, can we do something on Disco? And I said, well, I'm not going to do creative writing because I did that on masterclass, but I would like to do this thing called Practical Utopias. And she then said, what's that? So all of you have now shown us what's that. So you are now what a practical utopia is, and you are a model and a template for other people to build on, improve, share. And one of our next thoughts is going to be, how do we put this out further into the world? And we'll be talking about that quite soon amongst our teams. So thank you, because you have you have shown that I'm not completely nuts. I always like knowing that.
I think we've all been at least a little completely nuts to jump into this and work together and come together as a global learning community on this. And big thank you to Candace, the Disco team. It's a small but mighty team who's brought so much care. I've seen behind the scenes what they've done to help bring this to life. But again, thank you to our fellows. Thank you to our participants for trusting in this, for trusting in one another to come together and make this a reality. Just a couple of logistical things as we're wrapping up. We'll be sharing more in the Disco platform about where we go from here. So that's coming. There's quite a few wrap up pieces. So we will put things out in phases. So it's not just a wall of information coming out to you. For our fellows, we have wrap parties next week. The details are in Disco in the event section. We would love to see you there as an opportunity to connect with one another and unpack some of this journey and some of this process together as well. Would be wonderful. I know there's also a wrap party being hosted just after this for the fellows with the regular session. So the details I've seen here on Zoom, and they will be in Disco as well for that. But no, things are coming. We'll be sharing more in Disco. This is not the end. This is the beginning, and it's now over to you to bring these possibilities to life and to continue to collaborate, to connect, and be the change that we need to see in the world right now. So before we go, I'd love to leave with one more question for all of you. And I'd love to know, what's one thing you'd love to share with others to help co-create a better future? You're all catalysts, you're sparks for wider change, and that's going to come through sharing. So what's one thing you would love to share with others to help co-create a better future? and I'll read out some of them here. The anthologies, those will be coming in the next few weeks. I want to say a big thanks to anthology editors. Members of the Fellows team are going to help put those together. Radical coexistence, tell stories about the future. Each person has something to contribute. Platforming ideas where I can. The power of rebel ideas and diversity of thought. There are other better ways of doing things. Just do that first step towards a better future, one step at a time. The process that we went through to let them experience the same. Let's make some stuff real. Listen first, listening. Broom and harvest mushrooms.
Already did concluding thoughts.
Lots of mushroom themes here. Everything we need to concrete or to create a better future is here. Take risks, understanding economies, collaborating with time constraints, trust yourself, power of words, work together. There's some beautiful, beautiful things here. There's even 60 more messages and even more coming in. Thank you all so much for being part of this. Practical Utopias, this lives within you. You brought this to life and you made some incredible, incredible things that we're excited to share more widely. Thank you for being part of this. We will see you on the Disco platform and we will see your future. Thank you all.